Well, it's that time of the week again for another YouTube video. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how I do these rocks that you could see just in the side of the painting here. So I've been working on this for a couple of days. We have the trees already completed, and now I just need to add these rocks just at the lower part here of the trees. And we want them to look as accurate as we can, getting them to look like that. So it's not that difficult to do actually, and I'm going to show you how I do it. But it's important that you have the right paints and the right brushes, all of which are available from my website. The link is in the description. So for those of you that don't know, I think we may have touched on this before, we may not, but I believe we probably have. And that is that I do have an online painting school. Also, the link is in the description below, and we cover absolutely every aspect of painting, from colour mixing to all the different techniques used. We don't miss out anything. Everything there is covered. There's thousands of hours of tuition, over 100 individual lessons, all filmed in real time, no time lapse, nothing is missed. So have a look at that if you're interested in painting like me. So I think that's everything covered here. I'm going to get working on the painting now, so let's have a look at that. Okay, so as I said, this is now completely dry, this block in here. Blocked it in acrylics, not that that makes any difference at all. We just need for this surface to be completely dry. Now let's have another look at the reference photograph. So we're going to get it as close as we can, as quickly as we can really. So that's what we're looking at. So it's blocked in a mid-tone, not as light as these parts and certainly not as dark as these areas here. We need to just get the shadow in place, add these darker areas, and then we can add the highlights and we can get it looking pretty accurate pretty quickly. So what I need to do is this area of shadow here, I'm just going to give that a general darken, because when you look at the reference photograph, this area is not only more blue, but it is a little bit darker. So I'm going to do that first of all with a glaze. So I'm going to be using the Series 12 size 3, and this is perfect for this sort of thing, because I kind of want just a rough, I don't want it to be too neat. I just want to be able to still use, or be able to see the block in below, hence the reason I'm doing a glaze. I don't want just a solid area of colour that you would get if I didn't use some Liquin Original to just give this a nice thin layer, but it will be fine for the initial darkening. I like the fact that I can still see that undercoat there, that block in. Okay, that's the shadow now. Obviously there's loads more details to put in place, but I'm going to start now adding these really dark areas of shade that you can see here in the reference photograph. There's a variety of colours in there, but one thing we can see is they're all dark. And I'm going to move over now to the Series 10. This is the filbert, comes in various different sizes, but this is the size 0. So I'm going to do the more obvious darker areas first of all. So we're just getting the lion's share of these darker areas in. There need to be a lot more than this, and there are also some more, I'm going to say this is blocked in a mid-tone, but it's not. It's actually on the slightly lighter side. So we do need to add a lot more detailing in there as well as the lighter tones. So I'm going to move over to the Series 2 size 2 now. This is a really good brush for adding details, and we're just going to now do something that's not quite as dark as what we've just done, something a little bit in between. So just adding a little bit more of a mid-tone in there before we can then go over and add some of the highlights. And I might just give that a slight soften with a mop blender, just a slight soften. So I'm just using the end of the brush, just brushing very gently over the top. Hardly any movement at all really, we just want it to be as soft as possible. Okay, now we've done that, I'm going to clean that brush out and move over to a rigger brush. So starting in the darker shades, in there, if we look at the reference photograph again, we can see that there's quite a lot of blue. So those areas that are in the shade are also much cooler. Okay, so just picking out the sort of slightly lighter little bits with this rigger brush. This rigger brush, by the way, is one of the smaller ones. It's not the smallest, this is the 5-0. Series 1, it's the 5-0. It does go up to a 10-0, which is even skinnier, and that's perfect. I mean, this is perfect as well for doing things like grasses and hair and anything that requires a straight, well, not a straight line, anything that requires a thin, consistent line. The rigger brushes are absolutely perfect for that. So I'm only using the very end of the brush, just that tip. Don't need to use any more. There's no pressure here. Okay, so that's the cooler bit. Now we do need to have some grasses in there, but as you can see, it's not dissimilar to the reference photograph. What we now need to do is the same thing, but with the much lighter colour, so those areas that are in the sun there. So just give the brush a clean and move over to a lighter colour. Now these types of rock been kind of smoothed. They've been smoothed by the probably thousands of years worth of water rushing over the top of them. So it's not like sometimes you may have seen me paint in previous videos where they're individual rocks that are just sort of sitting next to each other. These are worn out riverbed rocks. Okay, so we've started to add the highlights. I think if I look at the reference photograph, there's a lot more sort of little areas or smaller areas of dark. So I'm going to use the same brush, move over to a darker colour, and then continue just adding the smaller details. Right, okay, so it looks to me as if there's some grasses on there as well, which would make sense because we do have the grasses here. So I'm going to put those in now, I think. So we have a few darker tufts. We'll put those in first of all. So I've gone back to the Series 2 again, the one that we did use before, the size 2. And then back to the rigger brush again, just to add some of those lighter areas of green. Actually, fan brush, that works pretty well when painting grass as well. So just a very light pressure again. When you're trying to get as many details or fine details as you can, you really don't want too much pressure on any of your brush work. And then just to finish it off, a few more much lighter highlights. So back to the rigger brush again. Okay, so that's that area of smooth rock there, looking pretty similar to the reference photograph. There is more rock actually sort of over the water, which I'm going to do when I actually do the water, which will be in the next video. So that's that, pretty simple to do. Once again, if you've got the right tools to do the job. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you were able to take something from that and hopefully be able to replicate that level of detail in your own work. So I think that's it for now. I shall see you all in the next video, which will be maybe next week. All right, see you later. Bye everyone.